Hi everyone, my name is Amina and thank you for tuning into this video. So this video is going to go over my travel from Las Vegas, Nevada to Guayaquil, Ecuador. I'll talk about my experience, how the flights were, precautions I personally took, and also some things you may want to consider if you are planning on traveling to Ecuador either now or in the near future during the COVID-19 pandemic. So starting with my itinerary, I flew Southwest intentionally because they blocked that middle seats, and I knew my first flight would be pretty clean because they clean their airplanes nightly pretty well, but they did stop cleaning pretty thoroughly between each flight, so that's one thing to note. I flew from Las Vegas to Dallas, had a plane change, and then from Dallas to Fort Lauderdale. And Fort Lauderdale, I got there about 3 p.m., which led me to my international flight. In this picture here, you see the PPE I wore, the protective gear. I wore an N95 mask and a face shield. I just wanted to apologize in advance. I didn't get a lot of pictures or footage of the flight from Vegas to Dallas. I was really tired that night, only got about 2 hours of sleep, so I'm sorry about that. So here I was on the flight that was going from Dallas to Fort Lauderdale. It was already cutting in pretty close, plus my last flight from Vegas was a little late, so I had to hurry up. But you'll hear in this next one and see some footage of people boarding that flight.
Every window and aisle seat will be occupied, so if you're coming down that center aisle and you're traveling alone, just go ahead and look left, look right, grab that window or aisle seat. Again, it is going to be full today, guys. Ladies and gentlemen, you may now use your larger parental electronics device to connect to the southwestwifi.com.
As you all heard, the flight attendant announce the flight was full. I think the seat that was next to me that was open was the only seat that was open on the flight except for the middle seats. Outside of that, as far as social distancing, that was kind of enforced by, breaking up the boarding groups a little smaller, but people did still kind of group together, as well as all filing out together to get off the plane. As far as masks, they did announce that you did need to keep your mask on at all times except for when eating and drinking, and also that it must stay on your mouth and nose when you did have it on outside of those times. That wasn't really listened to either. I saw quite a few people just have it under their nose. A couple of people just had it on their chin. I also saw one woman at the end of the flight who was just walking around the plane without a mask on her face at all. So I mention these things because these are things that bothered me personally, because I've been pretty scared about the whole COVID-19 situation. But these are all things I knew I would have to face, especially flying from Texas to Fort Lauderdale, being two big COVID-19 hotspots in the U.S., as well as this was just necessary for the situation of me wanting to get to where I wanted to go at that time. So just things that you may want to consider when flying right now. Next was my flight from Fort Lauderdale to Guayaquil. I got to Florida around 3-something, just enough time to give me time to get to my international flight. I flew JetBlue intentionally because I've heard that they have very high standards of cleaning during COVID-19, as well as they block out middle seats as well. So I just heard overall good things about the airline, and also it was a pretty cheap flight, so win-win. So I know this is something that is not necessarily a mystery, but has gotten a lot of different answers. Referring to ongoing travel, I was asked when I checked in my bags if I had ongoing travel. I said yes, because I did, and there's no other questions asked, no proof was needed. Outside of that, I would suggest to still have it, just in case maybe I got a nice person. I just got a refundable flight and I canceled it once I was here. So as far as the actual flight, I felt a lot safer on this flight with JetBlue than I did on my 2 other flights. I think for a couple reasons. Number one, most of the people I saw were wearing a mask that was either KN95 or N95 mask, which everyone has their different opinions, but that just personally made me feel more comfortable. There were a couple people that had it below their nose, but as I said, most of the people were wearing them properly. Also, it made me feel better to see the flight attendants not be hesitant to tell someone to put their mask back on, to lift it back over their nose. And most of the time, they didn't even have to say anything. They just motioned and the person did so. So overall, that just made me feel a lot safer and comfortable.
About 29:53 p.m. We'll be taxiing for a few moments. Please remain comfortably seated. Seatbelt security fastened, bag is stored to your pocket. The gate captain has turned off the fasten seatbelt sign before deplaning. Please check your running seats for any personal belongings you may have on board. Careful open.
So just so you all know, once you get off the flight, it's a pretty long walk from where I was, but you walk and you get to this area where you have to sit down. Get a number and you go up on at a time to have your COVID-19 PCR test checked. And also there's a form that you're given on the plane, which asks about symptoms, where you're going, things like that. You have to have that filled out as well, and you give that to them at that time. So next you go to immigration, which is pretty standard. It's actually a pretty nice experience I had. One of the best experiences in immigration I've ever had, actually. They were pretty pleasant, straightforward, and this is me. I'm finally in my hotel. I started my journey at 6 a.m. that morning, and I got to my hotel about 11:30 p.m. that night in Guayaquil. Overall, I'll say it was a very exhausting and stressful experience. I can only speak for myself, but I used to love flying. I still do, but COVID-19 has actually, I think, added a layer of stress and anxiety that wasn't there for me before and has given me a lot to think about when traveling. These were the requirements to enter Ecuador at the time I was traveling. I had to have my negative PCR COVID-19 test, as well as fill out the form that was given to me on the flight. Make sure both of those things are done and filled out. Otherwise, you will not even be able to get to immigration. The form asks about whether you are experiencing any symptoms, asks about where you're going specifically in Ecuador, like which province or city, and just contact information and things to that sort. So just some final thoughts and things I suggest to consider before traveling to Ecuador. Number one, make sure you are checking the embassy page before you book your travel. Things with COVID-19 change daily, so those requirements may change at any given time. So make sure you're keeping on track on that. Also, make sure you're keeping the date and time that you're traveling into consideration as well. That may affect how full or not full your flight is, so that's something that may make you feel more at ease. That's something to consider. Lastly, think about what resources or equipment may make you feel more at ease or more safe, whether that's gloves, a face shield, specific type of mask, disinfectant wipes, whatever the case may be. As we all know, COVID-19 has added a whole new layer to travel, so just take these things into consideration. I hope this was helpful, and thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you out here in Ecuador. Bye, everyone.